No.
Oh my word, it started so live. Atkinson with John Gibbons, Paul Coban, Kev Walsh. That's like, these openings aren't smooth, are they, John?
The dramatic, if anything, do you know what I mean? I'm worried I've been left in the stalls, so to speak, and everyone else
is how you always are. Is this how I've watched them yet?
Yeah, it's like it's like someone plunges you, like it's like Kev Walsh pushes you into a swimming pool when you're not prepared for it. It's exactly what it's like.
Or off a paddleboard, as I was doing yesterday to everyone in the Albert Dock.
Yeah, Kev doesn't know what you're on about. What? Push people in the pool? What do you mean?
Yeah, never. He is an angel. He is an angel. It is Neil Atkinson, as I said before. It is John Gibbons, Paul Copan, Kev Walsh. This is the Anfield Wrap Live, looking ahead to a massive weekend against Leeds United. We're going to get stuck into exactly how big that weekend is and what it could mean for Liverpool's season, not least because of the other games that are going on. Have you looked at the other games?
I haven't, yeah. I probably should engage with it.
Oh, Leicester are playing Man City.
I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah, Leicester are playing Man City.
United are home to Newcastle.
They are indeed. Chelsea have got Villa, which will be an interesting one, if nothing else. But almost like Arsenal are playing Norwich, which just feels... Do you know, like when in a film in an old sort of style movie, someone leaves a banana skin or is carrying a piece of wood and turning around with it and all that sort of stuff. It's that sort of build up to a football match like nothing you've seen in your life. So it's a really interesting weekend to come. But obviously the big one for us is Liverpool Football Club. It's also the FIFA question, Kev. This is the strangeness of everything, really, is what we're talking about here. The idea that right now, Jurgen Klopp, he's probably working as we're doing this. He's probably 4 o'clock seems about right. He likes to get them trained at the time that they're going to play. And he doesn't know if he's going to be able to pick Alisson Becker or Fabinho. How does he work on shape? What's his outlook, Kev? I think it's a nightmare, and it feels as though it's entirely man-made.
It's entirely man-made, and it's entirely made of the fact that football, everybody assumes themselves to be the most important person in the room. So FIFA, obviously, they run world football, so you'd say, well, probably it is them. But then, if the Premier League say to FIFA, okay, well, we don't want to be part of any of your stuff, go away. They'll be like, shit, we lose a bit of a big player there, don't we? So it's everyone just trying to throw the weight around. And the best thing about it is, how can you have a rule whereby one of the players, because we like their team, is allowed to play, and the rest of them aren't? It's absolute madness. To be fair, I'd love the needle if they way around them. They let our 3 players play and Richarlison couldn't. That'd be fantastic. I'd be all for that.
I've got no shadow of a doubt you'd be all for that. Paul, I think Kev's analysis there, that everybody thinks their thing is the most important thing, it's a decent one, to be honest with you. But it's also the positioning and the politicking. And it's just the refusal to acknowledge reality. If those Liverpool players had gone out to Brazil, they wouldn't be able to play against Leeds anyway. They wouldn't be able to play against AC Milan. They wouldn't be able to play against Crystal Palace. And I think they'd be touch and go for Norwich. I don't think it would depend literally what day they got back in the country as to whether or not they could play in the Norwich game in the League Cup if we wanted that. That is no way to be. But not only that, they'd basically go to seed. They'd be in a hotel room. They wouldn't be able to quarantine in decent circumstances. They wouldn't be able to train as footballers. It feels almost on the verge of just being, and I use this phrase really, really lightly, I don't want people to think I'm overstating it, but there's almost very mild form of abuse in this towards these athletes. It's not good for them to have to have gone through that reality.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking far too much sense in all of that, though, Neil, aren't you? Like, I think just generally speaking, I'm away, so I've had a little bit of time to like sit back and reflect recently, and a conclusion I've come to, just generally speaking in life, is humans are just mental. Like just across the board, humans are just mental, and we like to break it down and get into all this nitty gritty and all that. But I think the humans involved in football are maybe the most mental, because like through all of this, like think about what's been going on in the world in the past 18 months and how the world has dealt with it, like outside of football. And then think about everything around footy. It's just like, it doesn't really matter. You're like, what? Like, we're going to still have international football tournaments. Like, is that a good idea, full stop? Like, even before we get into the nitty-gritty of UEFA and FIFA and all of that sort of stuff, is it a good idea to be moving people around? And it's not like this is the first time it's happened, is it? Like, this has been going on. We had the stuff in the Euros with VIPs and all that.
Yeah.
I just think that I mean, we can go into all kinds. I've got a lovely thing about Wenger at the moment. Like Joe, like you've got all this madness with FIFA and UEFA, and then I think you get like the likes of Klopp banging his head against the brick wall, talking about the welfare of players and too many games and all that stuff, and then this stuff on top in the middle of a pandemic, and then someone like Wenger gets involved, and I bet you like Klopp and Guardiola are thinking, oh, do you know what? At last, someone sensible. And one of the first things he does is go, I've got a good idea. World Cups every 2 years. And they're like,
yeah.
What?
On
our side, mate. So I don't know whether there's just something in the water at places like FIFA that just sends them even more mental. But, it makes no sense. What they're all doing, I'm with Kev on the Richarlison thing. I just wish it was the other way around.
I mean, obviously, if it was the other way around, it'd have punchlines, John, but it still wouldn't be particularly, it still wouldn't be right. I think the whole thing isn't right. I think that the footballers' welfare does have to just come first in these scenarios, and I would like to think that would be the thing that would be at the forefront of the Brazilian FA's mind. I mean, they need these footballers in the best possible shape. They don't need to be running around irritating people. What worries me is ever footballers are going to end up stuck in the middle, which does not feel like it happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. And if only we had some sort of professional football association who were able to sort of stand up for footballers, some sort of voice for them, regardless of where you come from, if you were working in as a footballer in this country, just like a union, you could call it, mate, a union, if you like.
An association, possibly.
Yeah, headed up by someone incredibly well paid, a Gordon or something, I don't know. You pick your own person, because it obviously doesn't exist, because they have been silent throughout the whole thing. Say what you want about Wenger, but at least he's saying stuff. He's got too much time to think as well. He's not used it as well as Copious.
But hang on, mate. Like, are we using that? Maybe Gordon's going with the, like, you're best just not saying anything. Like, anything I add to this is going to make it worse. So
yeah, have I got a solution? No. All right, I'll shut up. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like someone should be sticking up for the footballers, and if it's not the Professional Footballers Association, then I don't know. Maybe it's us. It feels, but you do feel for them, because they sort of pulled around. And listen, a lot of Liverpool fans, often come out with, they should all just retire from an international football. It's like, well, they don't want to. Do you know what I mean? Like, footballers, you grow up, wanting to play in World Cups, and people are patriotic, and it's just a laugh. I'm sure playing for Brazil is a good laugh, and they enjoy it, and they get a sort of a lot from it. Really, there needs to be just a bit of sense for the small amounts of time. But there's so much money involved, and there's so much kind of pressure, to get these games on. I've still got a cob on that. They now play 3 times in 2 weeks. Like, how's that been snuck in?
Yeah, that feels like we all missed a meeting on that, doesn't it? Yeah, didn't circulate a memo to the Anfield Wrap.
So 3 games now. Yeah, it's 3. Oh, I've just bubbled out. I'm okay. It's 3 games now, and it just sort of feels kind of ridiculous, really. I don't. So it's no one's thinking of the players, and it's frustrating.
It is indeed, Paul. I'll just come back to you on this last little bit you mentioned there with Wenger. I think the thinking of the players thing is a massive aspect of this. We need it to be put at the forefront, and I don't know quite what the club does, because as a man with your background, if this thing could go on for a while, all the arguments can be heard. If there needs to be a legal aspect, that's absolutely fine. I was just talking before about Klopp's training. There's one aspect. It's not just the idea of where we are by 4:30 on Sunday. It's where we are by arguably midday, possibly even tomorrow, is the thing that I'd say. I imagine there's a lot of stuff going on in back rooms with people at the minute, having a bit of murder, having an argument. And I reckon it's going to take a bit of sorting out, but the idea is, the key thing is, what do Liverpool do? Because there's a big ticking clock in the corner about when this game kicks off at Elland Road.
Yeah, it was funny enough. I was thinking about this before, and the type of lawyer I used to be, I would often talk to clients about the difference between technical rules and the real world. And I was seeing the other day that basically, if they don't comply with what FIFA is saying, the punishment is you automatically lose the game 3-0. Well, guess what? Both sides have got Brazilian players. So if I was Klopp, and if I was the hierarchy at Liverpool, I'd be on the blower to Leeds and saying to them, lads, let's just play our players. In the real world, forget what they say. We can, as you say, we can argue about this technically later. We haven't got time to do that now. Train this week. We'll play our players. You play your players. Let's do it in writing, so we can't shaft each other on the day. We don't want to be like Alisson Becker's walking out and was like, hey, where's Rafinha?
What's the quiz show at the end where you have to decide whether to keep or steal? It's like that one.
Golden balls. It's golden balls.
Golden balls have just had me here from God himself. There we are.
So yeah, that's that. I mean, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be saying, because what I'd work on is, well, what's your worst case scenario? Your worst case scenario is you play the game, you both play your players, you breach, and then ultimately whatever the legal actions are that'll take time, you lose, and they say, well, even if you won the game, you lose your points. Well, okay, is that a risk worth taking? And I mean, just on the fly thinking about this, there's more than just the game on Saturday or Sunday at stake here. And I think from the footballers, when John's talking about, someone's got to stand up for the footballers, or maybe the football club should stand up for the footballers and say, well, we're just ignoring you. We're just ignoring FIFA.
On that, Kev, I think for me, this is the biggest aspect of this is that for me, this isn't just September. This isn't just going to be a one-off. I think sense will prevail here, but it'll end up being the sort of sense that's a bit of a shot across the bow. You best watch yourselves in October. You best watch yourselves in November. I think even if this gets resolved prior to the game against Leeds, prior to any of the weekend's games for any of the teams, I think it's going to keep coming back round. And I think that the footballers, the football clubs, the football supporters were stuck in the middle of a power struggle that's much bigger than us.
Well, that's exactly what's going to happen, because that's what happens every single time you have an issue like this, isn't it? They sort of fudge something that makes it go away for now. And then in this case, it'll be, 3 or 4 weeks' time, we've got another international break and we have the same issues then. And as you say, it'll be like, well, we gave you this dispensation last time. And the clubs will be like, well, we're not having our players. Like, obviously, if you just think of it rationally, what you said before, you can't have top athletes just 3 times in 3 months going into a Holiday Inn for 2 weeks, you know what I mean, in the middle of the season. You just can't, like, rationally, nobody in the world thinks that's a good idea. But effectively, that's what Brazil are saying. That's the issue. And the other thing is, back to the Richarlison point, you can't have a rule where they say, okay, well, yes to you and no to you. It's either all or nothing. And I think the fact that is in place, and they've already said they'll let Richarlison play, the other teams will just say, well, it's a farce of a rule anyway. Back to the 3 points thing. Can FIFA take 3 points off the Premier League? How does that work? Surely the Premier League want to hold their own sway, don't they, over their own league? So can FIFA say, well, we demand you dock 3 points?
Yeah, so the weird thing is, so everyone's got basically FIFA. So, and this is why this is another huge philosophical issue. Everyone's regulated by FIFA. So FIFA are the ultimate regulator, but in this instance, the dispute is about their own competition. And we've had this in the past, it's something that drives me mad about the FA and the FA Cup and all this sort of stuff. The FA runs the competition, but it also gets to regulate football in this country, at least theoretically. We all know it does a dreadful job. But the theory, the plan is that that's how this works. And that's, for me, John, this is a massive issue in football in general. UEFA own and regulate the Champions League. FIFA own the World Cup. That's why they want to have another one, because there's more money in it. All the regulators, everyone's hands are dirty. Everyone's got skin in the game, which makes actual practical regulation impossible. And the Premier League have got to apply to FIFA in order to be signed off as the thing that runs the league in this country and all of that. So everything ends up back into this situation where it is this murky cesspit, to be honest with you.
I mean, yeah, it is. The more you think about it, the murkier it is as well, and the more you talk about it. I mean, I'm happy to just call Everton busies if everyone else is, and just to move on from there. Spies. all that, yes. Classes get away with stuff. Do you know what I mean? That's how it works, doesn't it? The one kid in the class who's not punished, and everyone else is. That's Everton, and that's no place to be. I don't think. Do you know what I mean? But they've decided that's their future, and good luck to them. But it's much more fun to skid Everton, I feel, than think about sort of FIFA, UEFA. I mean, it is mad on UEFA. You talk about the idea of, they own the competition, they own the rules and stuff like that. They even own your stadium for the 24 hours around which is one of my favorite things. We have to hand over Anfield to UEFA, and if they wanted to, they could just stick all the mates in. Maybe that's what they threaten. When they say, when everyone moans that they got too many tickets, they go, we could have all of them if we wanted to. You're happy you get any of your own fans in at all? It's just absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's one of those, and the more you think about it, the worse it gets when you're someone who just likes watching really good football players.
Absolutely. We are people who like watching really, really good football players, and we're lucky we get to watch them, and we'll be getting to watch them no matter what happens on Sunday. For those of you who are enjoying TAW Live through its live vehicles across many a platform right now, there will not be much of a gap. But for those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, which was recorded live, we'll be back immediately after the game again. Well, not immediately after, that would be too much. Very close to the end of the AC Milan game. We'll get your dates out around that next week. So if you want to come and enjoy and be part of the TAW Live experience, that will be absolutely phenomenal. If not, you are listening to this as a podcast, that's the business as well. And if you are listening to it as a podcast, my voice right now will hand over to my voice, which will tell you what the 3 wonderful inserts are that are coming with people as terrific as Dan Hewitt, Steve Martin, and Dan Morgan, talking about a wide variety of subject matters. But if you're live, just count to 3. We'll be right back at you. 1, 2, 3. It is indeed TAW Live. It's Neil Atkinson with John
Dan
Gibbons.
Hewitt was good.
He was, wasn't he? He was indeed. Just
going on here, isn't it? Is this the new Matrix movie?
they're basing it around it. They're basing it
No
around
wonder
it.
Eaton's head fell off before, is it?
Are we in the past or the future?
I mean, there's talk that Heaton is in the new Matrix movie. He's one of those,
He's on his haircut.
Yeah, he's one of those, like in the Matrix, that like in order to make the film longer, they have to go and do a really mad cryptic thing. Someone's got to knock around to Andy's and Seaforth. Keanu's got to knock around to Andy's and Seaforth and have a chat to him about something. He's going to give him an important piece of information. For us, the important piece of information is all about the game coming up against Leeds at the weekend. John, it's a reminder, really, what a season is. We've just come off the back of the Chelsea game. You've got Leeds away. We don't yet know. I think Leeds might be on a teeny little bit of a wane in the grand scheme of things. We don't yet know that. We'll know how difficult it is to go to Elland Road and get something in a few weeks or months' time. What I would say is I think it'll be especially difficult on Sunday. This is their first big game against a proper football team at home since they've been able to have crowds back in at the start of the Premier League season.
Yeah, we went and did a video preview show, and video subscribers will be able to see that. It's out online now, and we went over to Leeds to do it because one of the reasons was we knew sort of how excited they'd be, and we did it with a young lad who's never known Leeds in the Premier League. When they sort of got relegated, he was very young, and it's 20 years, which is it's flown by in a way for sort of us. We're all around 40, aren't we? But for people in the early 20s, like he was, he never sort of known Leeds in that. So they played some Mickey Mouse outfit a couple of weeks ago at home. Some busies, but this is it's a 6-time European champion coming to Liverpool, and this is the kind of game where not being big-headed when you were in the Championship is like, we want to go playing teams like Liverpool again at home, and at 4:30 on a Sunday, I'm sure they'll be out for it. I'm sure they'll be sort of enjoying it, and they'll take some beating on Sunday, and that's the way that Liverpool need to view it. It's not to say that we need to fear them or whatever, but we need to turn up, we need to be strong, we need to be sort of first into tackles and all the cliches and that, and we need to put our chances away, because they will give you chances, but they'll create as well. So we need to make sure we take ours when we're on top.
It's a funny thing, Kev, the first 3 in August, we've lived it all often enough now. I mean, I'm pleased John's reminded us all how old we are in comparison to this young Yorkshire whippersnapper that he's referring to there. I'm of the view that, we've seen enough now to know it's a bit mad, the first 3, for everybody at times. It's just a bit weird. It's something that happens, and then it's almost its own weird little mini league. You do the best you can out of it, and you see where you are afterwards. Then, if you're us, at the state we are, you're suddenly aware, right now it's serious stuff, in that you're playing Sunday, then it's AC Milan on Wednesday, then there's a home game the following weekend. They throw you a League Cup one in there so you can do a bit of changes around that, fair enough, but then you've got another tricky little away game, and then after that you've got Porto, and then you've got Man City. I wonder whether or not we'll see the start of him prepping for that through this, because it is now different. It isn't just these are my lads with 1 week gap over and over again. He's got to start thinking, he's got to start plotting his route through.
Yeah, you've got to do that in this situation, and we're lucky that we've got a squad as big as we've got, because obviously you look at I think the obvious one for Sunday is Andy Robertson, isn't it? He's obviously had a difficult start to the season with the injury in pre-season, and I think Scotland have half-flogged him as well during the international. Not that I've paid much attention, to be honest, but Tsimikas, when he played, sound, there was no issues with him, and I wouldn't be worried about throwing him in on Sunday. I would probably think maybe even keep him in for AC Milan if Robertson needs that rest. If not, bring Robertson back, that's fine. But that's around the time where you start, as you say, you can't just go, well, we go game after game after game. When you're playing, that's fine, but you've got to have some sort of plan. So because you can't say, okay, we'll just play these first 4 games with these players and hope for the best, because we've seen that does not work out. So I think this will be the time where we're making a few little changes, and you might. This is the time of the season where you look at some team sheets and you go, "Oh, why is he playing and not him?" And the reason is because in 3 games' time you want him playing, and you've got to be a little bit strategic about that. And sometimes you just got to swallow what looks like a team that doesn't really work. But with our squad, I'm confident in most teams we pick that you think will be all right with it.
You will be confident on most sides, Paul. Where I think it's a little different, managers in general don't like to do the thing I'm about to say. I think it's fair to say as a generalisation. But also, we've had a very specific footballer around this. But where I think it might be a little bit different is he may need to quite continually look at the centre-halves. We've very much known for, effectively since January 2018, it's Virgil +1. But as wonderful as Virgil is, and I'm sure if Virgil is tuning into this tour live under a pseudonym on the YouTube there, I think he may well be thinking, well, I will play every game, thank you very much. But Liverpool have got to ensure that they're keeping him sharp, they're looking after him. They do not want to take a risk with Virgil. We don't want to see that. I wonder if you might, for the first time, see Virgil miss, even when he himself will feel fully fit, a Premier League or European game in this next little run. It won't be the one against City, but, I don't think it'll be Sunday either, to be honest with you, but it wouldn't surprise me if Virgil maybe gets a little bit more of a break, one more game off in a run like this than we might be used to, or even he might be expecting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting thing to look out for, because it'll tell us a lot about the manager's mindset and what he really thinks about the other lads. Because something Kev's just said there, I'm with him completely on Simicast. I think he's done himself no harm at all in his performances. And at the same time, he's playing alongside Virgil van Dijk, which for anybody, it makes a massive difference, doesn't it? Like, there was a reason last year he didn't get a sniff. And I don't think it was just because he hasn't settled in properly. It's just a case of, look, I just need me lads. When you've got Virgil van Dijk there, I was going to say one of us could have a game at left back. I couldn't go that far.
The Leeds whippersnapper could.
Yeah, he's probably still got the legs, hasn't he? But I do think that there is a possibility here. And to be honest, given the number of centre halves we've got, there might be more to it than just give Virgil van Dijk a break. And maybe that's the way they sell it to Virgil. Is that, look, mate, we've just paid 40 million quid for this lad, and where's he getting his game? Like, if none of you get injured, and we don't want any of you to get injured, we've got to give him a game somewhere, and it can't just be in the League Cup. Like, he just play crap League Cup games. So I think there's different ways you could sell it to him. And as bold as Virgil is and as cool as he is on the exterior and very confident and would say, I can play every game, he knows he's just had a serious injury. He knows he's not getting any younger.
He's an intelligent man as well.
Yeah, like there are enough players who've gone before him who tell stories of, I wish I'd have looked after myself a bit better because I'd have played longer. And he'll be looking at someone like James Milner and thinking, well, I want to be playing as long as you're playing. So how do I do that? If I miss the odd game, is that actually that big a deal? And I actually hope we do see him rested for a couple of them.
Go on. I was just going to say, he's got centre halves there who've not played, any international football. Joe Matip's one who has sort of retired and has been tempted back a couple of times. Joe Gomez doesn't make the squad, this time, which is understandable. So, he's got lads there. Canate's not in the French squad there. So he's got 3 lads there who've not been playing, these full international games. Whereas I'm not sure if Carty's played under 21s or anything, but As Paul says there, if there ever sort of is an opportunity, then it does feel like this is one to do that. In terms of he could have picked the centre half partnership 10 days ago and worked with them for 2 weeks, and just sort of used this time there. And Van Dijk's been a bit in the wars, hasn't he? There was one tackle that I think got everyone wincing, and he sort of got up from it a bit gingerly. And I know he said after the game that he felt all right quite quickly after, but it is a bit of a reminder. That he is sort of, obviously just sort of coming back and, still sort of we're all a bit sort of worried about it. So it feels like one to me that I wouldn't be surprised if he almost made the decision, last week sometime that he was going to go with 2 lads who we've got there, and he's just been sort of working on that ever since.
Come back to you on Paul mentioned Milner, John. Milner has an injury for the last couple. Going back to Elland Road, I'm sure he'll be very, very eager to play. There is the Fabinho question in amongst there as well. And then the next phase of this is Henderson's been away on England duty. I'd like to see Chamberlain in this sort of game because of the way Leeds play. There can be a lot of space to run into because they're very, very, very aggressive. But if you beat that press, there's room to drive up the pitch. I would have presumed, given the unbelievable drama Kite has lived through, he's probably looking at Milan for his next start. What do you think he does in the middle of the park?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, I think he will just sort of assess it, and that doesn't help in terms of, wanting to plan and things like that. But it is seeing how people sort of come back and when. I think if the Fabinho thing isn't sorted and that a decision isn't made, I don't think they will risk it. I think Liverpool are sort of fairly cautious on this sort of thing. I did like Cope's plan of just do the agreements and just do it. But, I get above with most Cope plans, to be honest with you. But it's not necessarily served me very well in the past. But he could just talk me into stuff, and I'm like, yeah, sound up the Reds, let's go. I'm not sure Jürgen will be quite sort of that mindset. So I think unless it's all sort of agreed and ratified, I think they'll go safety first on it, and so you're looking at sort of who is around. I don't think Henderson's minutes have been too sort of aggressive, and if we're not playing Fabinho 6, he's
got to play Henderson.
He's got to play Henderson there. So if you say Henderson, Thiago's not been away, so I think he definitely starts. And then the other one, I think it is just having a little look at Keita and just seeing sort of, how he's feeling about the whole thing. But like you say, Neil, everything he's sort of been through and everything, it seems, a bit sort of much to just sort of throw him into sort of start straight away. So I would say it probably, possibly it is between sort of Milner and Chamberlain.
Neither of whom have gone away either.
Yeah, but Chamberlain's been on paternity leave, hasn't he? So, so we'll see. Depends how he is. Depends. He's probably just happy to get out the house. Do you know what I mean? 2 weeks is long enough, isn't it? Isn't it, Kev?
Yes, it certainly is.
there is on that. I think at some point I'd like to see Chamberlain get that start. The expectation, I think, Kev, in hindsight now, is that he would have started against Burnley, but for the reason that we now know that's in the public domain. We didn't know on the day, obviously, but we do know now. I feel like one of these that's coming up. I'd like to see Chamberlain get his go in the middle of the park. Dovetail with opponent, with his teammates a little bit, get his season restarted. He does start against Norwich, but I'd like to see Chamberlain get a go myself.
Yeah, I love him. I always say every time he comes up, he's a fantastic player. And if this is the game, as you say, with a bit of space in behind, that's exactly what he needs. Sometimes we bring him on at Anfield, and I feel sorry for him because you're coming up against 2 banks of 5 effectively, and it's really difficult to get through that. The issue you might have is Klopp, if we haven't got Fabinho there, might want like sort of 2 6s, so maybe a Milner and Henderson. You put Thiago in front of that to sort of spray the ball for the front 3. So I'd be happy with either, to be honest. Obviously, Thiago needs minutes, I think, as well. He's like,
he's one who hasn't had enough time either.
He's not playing a lot, and he's a fantastic player against Leeds. I think he's good in the press. Actually, he's good at getting the ball back, and obviously he's fantastic at using it. So I'm sort of swaying towards Thiago being.
I'd definitely start Thiago.
Well, see that if I'm for me, I personally, I don't know whether I'm being a bit of a shitbag here, but I'm picking Thiago and 2 sort of more holding midfielders, just because Leeds do like to try and come at you, and especially if we are going to make a change of Virgil van Dijk, I'm not sure we want to be making literally fresh legs into centre half and no Fabinho in front of them. So you'd have and only 1 defensive centre mid. So I think you go for the 2 more like sitting midfielders and get Thiago a bit of license to run.
It'll be the front 3, presume, John?
Yeah, with Jota, you mean? Yeah. I think for me, we haven't really heard too much, apart from the fact that Apparently isn't too bad, but I don't think, with obviously the mix of the injury and the fact that we don't even know whether we're getting in trouble for him anyway, you'd be surprised if he is involved. Jota's international duel, I think he scored, didn't he? And got an assist the other night as well. Sadio Mane, I think's got a goal as well away. So, and I think Salah's only played once, hasn't he? The agreement was. And so, those 3, makes complete sense to go again. And they're all in the goals this season already as well, which is great. And they will get chances in this game, and I think they'll enjoy it.
Yep. Just to run through the YouTube comments with everyone very, very quickly. Are you Stephen? Are you Grizz? Nice to see you both. Sausage Lord 102. I refuse to believe that was what you were christened. We should still have enough to beat Leeds, even without our Brazilian lads, he says. Perfectly reasonable. Michael Walsh, the Brazil FA thing is absurd. Absolutely. And he also makes a wider Saudi Arabian point with reference to FIFA, which is more than fair enough. Raya Mohammed says that 3 games in a week are due to the international breaks that were cancelled at the height of the pandemic. That is true, John. There's also one to keep your eye on, which is there's a mad international break just dropped in at the end of January that no one's onto yet. which, you know, I'm all in favour of mad bits of scheduling that you've got to have your eye on from a distance out.
Yeah, no, I didn't have my eye on that, so you are correct.
Yeah, I've got my eye on all sorts of this mad stuff. Bobby Rowler says that he'd be amazed if it's not sorted in the next 24 hours. And then there's some encouragement that people should just listen to Mr. Phil, and there's no argument with that in these parts.
On anything in particular, or just
life?
just get Mr. Phil involved where you can. I think ultimately, Kev, where I end up, just to round it all off for us on this one today, is Elland Road's meant to be hard and it's meant to be a difficult place to go. That's what it needs to be. You know what I mean? We need it to be for when our rivals, we need them to drop points somewhere, and Elland Road's a massive part of that. It's the sort of place where that can happen. But ultimately, I feel as though this Leeds side this season, what it might find is last year, it was the most intense team every single game. And part of that was there was no crowd in. I actually think that this Leeds side, a bit of its magic weapon last season was we're going to be unbelievably intense. I don't know quite what they think it looks like if the opponents are suddenly going, well, you got 38,000 maniacs here. We're going to be unbelievably intense too. And I think Liverpool have got to meet fire with fire. Last season, when we went there, we went 1-0 up. The way the game went, we had loads of chances to break and score. We didn't take them. It finished 1-1. I expect to see a Liverpool side do them in.
Yeah, 100%. We've had 2 weeks with a lot of players who haven't been away on international duties to work on whatever type of systems you're thinking about going forward. And Liverpool, as Pepinda said, our identity is intensity. So we'll go there and we'll start properly. And the thing is, we can sort of rope it out them as well, because Leeds are good, but they're very, very, very front foot. Like against Everton, they were comical in some of the ways they were attacking, because the way they left the defence wide open. So if they do something similar like that to us, and we've got a midfield that can get hold of the ball, and a player like TAW who can spray it, they could be in serious trouble, I think.
Yep, a little bit of news breaking through this. An injury update being posted by the club that Van Dijk, Naby and Harvey are all fine. John, that's nice to see.
Yeah, good news. Yeah, I think the Virgil one's just, as I say, on that sort of heavy tackle, so to confirm in that one. Keita, fine sort of physically, but they'll see how to judge him. The Harvey Elliott one's good news, isn't it? Because he was obviously carrying a bit of an injury, so to have him available as a midfield option is really good news.
Excellent stuff. Any predictions for the match, Cope?
I think we'll batter them, because I think they're mad, and I think their manager's mad, and I think loads of other managers look at him and think, how does he get away with being so mad? Because if I played like him and got battered all the time, I'd be getting sacked. And on that basis, with that very technical analysis, we'll score about 4.
John, I've got a couple of predictions. I think that I'm sort of where Paul is a little bit. I think it'll be a bit tougher than that, because I think that the crowd will play a part, but I think if we get ahead, we'll go from there. On the crowd, I think that the haircuts will be dreadful and somehow the trousers will be worse.
Yeah, we should win the jeans on Sunday, I feel. Strong favourites for that. I think we'll win the game as well. I saw someone predict 3-2 in the comments, which I was into as a lively Sunday afternoon. I'm going to say we go 3-1 up and then they get a late one. So it looks closer than it is.
Nervy, all that sort of stuff. Kev, what are you expecting other than lots and lots of shouts of Yorkshire and maybe, if they mix it up, West Yorkshire?
Well, I'm expecting trouble outside the ground, because there always is at Elland Road. It's one moody fucking place to go, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm expecting a 3-1 win for the Reds.
3-1 win for the Reds. Excellent stuff across the boards. I've enjoyed all of that sort of stuff. Liverpool, go on.
So I was going to say, David Lee there said last minute winner, John, for the 3-2. I mean, I'll enjoy that at the moment, David, but
it'd be lovely in the last minute, but the 10 before sound dreadful.
Yeah, sorry, I ruined your outro there.
No, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry
David
at all.
Lee got in my head.
I know he's there. He's all over us, making it very, very difficult. And I as I say, yeah, I think the Reds are going to be absolutely fine. Thank you very much for joining us on this tour live today. If you joined us live, but also if you download it as a podcast, all the different ways to enjoy the Anfield Wrap. We'll be doing this again after the AC Milan game. We'll let you know when that is. Look forward to it. Set your alarm and go from there. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much to Dan Morgan and to Dan Hewitt and to Steve Martin. And thank you very much to Paul Cope, to Kev Walsh and to John Gibbons. Liverpool are preparing to go to Leeds United. It'll be brutal. I hope it rains as heavily as it's raining at the minute in Liverpool City Centre. I got drenched on my way here. I want it to be a grey masterpiece at Elland Road, and I want Liverpool to give no quarter and get absolutely stuck right into the Yorkshire bastards.